the scheme of parliamentary system of government provided by the Constitution, the President is the nominal executive authority. In the scheme of parliamentary system of government provided by the Constitution, the President is the executive authority, that is the chief executive, and Prime Minister is the real executive authority, that is de facto executive. In other words, President is head of the state while Prime Minister is head of the government. President is head of the state while Prime Minister is head of the government. Appointment of the Prime Minister. The Constitution does not contain any specific procedure for the selection and appointment of the Prime Minister. Article 75 says only that Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President. Article 75 says only that the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President. However, this does not imply that the President has free to appoint anyone as the Prime Minister. In accordance with the convention of the parliamentary system of government, the President has appointed leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha as the Prime Minister. But when no party has a clear majority in the Lok Sabha, when no party has a clear majority in the Lok Sabha, then the President may exercise his personal discretion in the selection and appointment of the Prime Minister. But when no party has a clear majority in the Lok Sabha, then President may exercise his personal discretion in the selection and appointment of the Prime Minister. In such a situation, the President usually appoints the leader of the largest party or coalition in the Lok Sabha. In such a situation, the President usually appoints the leader of the largest party or coalition in the Lok Sabha as the Prime Minister and asks him to seek a vote of confidence in the House within a month. This discretion, a vote of confidence in the House within a month. This discretion was exercised for the President for the first time in 1979 when Neelam Sanjeev Reddy, the President, appointed Charan Singh, the coalition leader, as the Prime Minister. After the fall of the Janata Party government, led by Morarji Desai, appointed Charan Singh as Prime Minister. After the fall of the Janata Party government, led by Morarji Desai. There is also one more situation when the President may have to exercise his individual judgment in the selection and appointment of the Prime Minister. That is, when the Prime Minister is in office suddenly and there is no obvious successor. This is what happened when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. The then President Jail Singh appointed Rajiv Gandhi as the Prime Minister by ignoring the precedent of appointing a caretaker Prime Minister. Later on, the Congress Parliamentary Party unanimously elected him as its leader. However, if on the death of an the ruling party elects a new leader, the President has no choice but to appoint him as the President. However, this is what happened when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. This is what happened when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. This is what happened when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. The then President Dr. Jail Singh appointed Rajiv Gandhi as the Prime Minister by ignoring the precedent of appointing a caretaker Prime Minister. This is what happened when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. The then President Jail Singh appointed Rajiv Gandhi as the Prime Minister by ignoring the precedent of appointing a caretaker Prime Minister. Later, the Congress Parliamentary Party unanimously elected him as its leader. However, upon the death of an incumbent Prime Minister, the ruling party elects a new leader. The President has no choice but to appoint him by the Prime Minister. In 1980, the Delhi High Court held that the Constitution was not required that a person must prove his majority in the Lok Sabha before he is appointed as the Prime Minister. The President may first appoint him the Prime Minister and then ask him to prove his majority in the Lok Sabha within a reasonable period. For example, Charan Singh, VP Singh, Chandrasekhar, PV Narasimha Rao, AB Vajpayee, Devi Gowda, I.K. Gujral, and again AB Vajpayee were appointed as Prime Minister in this way. In 1997, the Supreme Court held that a person who is not a member of either of the parliament can be appointed as a Prime Minister for 6 months, within which he should become a member of either of the parliament, within which he should become a member of either houses of the parliament. And which is to be the Prime Minister constitutionally. The Prime Minister may be a member of any of the two houses of parliament. For example, three Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, Dev Gowda and Manmohan Singh were member of the Rajya Sabha and written on the other hand, the Prime Minister should definitely be a member of the lower house, that is House of Commons, who term and before the Prime Minister enters the Council of the President and Ministers during the oath of office and secrecy. In the oath of office, the Prime Minister swears to be a true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India, to uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, to faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of his office and to all manner of people in accordance with the Constitution and the law. And clash. I am reading the topic Prime Minister and then I'll be covering the Chief Minister along with Central Council of Ministers and State Council of Ministers. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to communicate to the President all decision of the COM, to communicate to the President all decision of the Council of Ministers. He is the chairman of the Niti Aayog, which succeeded the Banking Commission, National Integration Council, Interstate Council, National Portuguese Council, and similar bodies. He plays a significant role in shaping the foreign policy of the country. He is the chief spokesperson of the Union government. He plays a significant role in shaping the foreign policy of the country. 75 for their house, they shall be appointed like the ministers and the Prime Minister, and the whole of it in the pleasure of the President, and third is there be a collective responsibility to the house of the people. Duties of the Prime Minister is respect the condition confirmation to the President. Until very much by 13 days, the teacher shortage duration among all the four options. Among all the four scheme of parliamentary system of government provided by the Constitution, the government has a nominal the governor is a nominal executive authority, that is the chief executive and the chief minister is the real executive, that is the fact executive and the other bodies head of the state when the chief minister is head of the government. As the position of the chief minister at the state level is analogous to the position of prime minister at the center. CM at the state level, as the position of the CM at the state level is analogous to the position of prime minister at the center. Siraj Gopal in Madras, Marathi Desai in Bombay, and C.B. Gupta in UP. C.B. Gupta in UP. Before London, we have appointed chief minister while they were members of the state legislative council. While they were members Governor cannot serve at any time. Yes, 19 after 90 for the 30. He acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation holding office for a period of 1 year at a time. He acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation. He acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation. He acts as the he he acts, he acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation holding office for a period of 1 year at a time. He acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council. He acts as the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation holding office for a period of 1 year at a time. He is a member of the Interstate Governing Council of the Niti Aayog, both headed by the Prime Minister. अपॉइंटमेंट की बात की, प्लेजर ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट की बात की गई, द कलेक्टिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. appointment of the president हो गया, term हो गया, telling the pleasure of the president, and third is the collective responsibility. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, the total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the COM shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the COM shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers, the total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. Shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. This provision was added by the 91st Amendment Act of 2003, and this provision was added by the 91st Amendment Act of 2003. Tribal welfare will rest upon for the state of Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar. responsible tenure of the tenure. It is works on the pleasure of the president. Third is the appointment of the prime minister is appointed by the president, but all other ministers appointed by the president on the advice of the PM. SCOM, that is Council of Ministers. लोकसभा लोकसभा सीएम को रिजॉल्व करने के लिए कह सकती है. नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन पास करके नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन के काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स and also the council of ministers can advise the president to resolve the Lok Sabha on the ground that the house does not represent the views of the electorate faithfully and call for fresh election. The president may not replace the council of ministers and that has lost the confidence of the Lok Sabha. case of independent judge, they perform the same function and exercise the same powers in relation to the Ministry's department as cabinet ministers do. They are not given independent charge of ministry department. They are attached to the cabinet minister or ministries. Ministers of state and assist them in their administrative, political and parliamentary duties. They are not members of the cabinet and do not attend cabinet meetings. Benefit was inserted in Article 352 of the Constitution. It did not find a place in the original text of the Constitution. Thus, it did not find a place in the original text of the Constitution. Cabinet do not find a place in the original text of the Constitution as it was inserted in 1978. It was inserted in Article 3. It was inserted in Article 352. It was inserted in Article 352 of the Constitution in 1978 by the 44th Constitutional Amendment. Thus, it did not find a place in the original text of the Constitution. Thus, it did not find a place in the original text of the Constitution. Also, Article 352 defines the cabinet, saying that it is council consisting of the Prime Minister and other ministers of cabinet rank appointed. Article 75 does not describe its power and functions. In other words, its role in our political administrative system is based on the Convention of Parliamentary Committees of Britain. Minister shall not be less than 12 and shall not be more than 15% of the strength of the absolute minister is that it shall exceed the 15% of the total strength of the 15%. The total number of ministers including the chief minister, the total number of ministers including the chief minister in the council of ministers in a state shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the legislative assembly of that state. The total number of ministers including the chief minister in the council of ministers in a state shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the legislative assembly of that state, और minimum 12 होने चाहिए. Minimum there would be minimum it will be 12 when they administer the oath of office and secrecy to a minister. But there should be a tribal welfare minister. Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, originally this provision was applicable to Bihar, MP and Odisha. The 94th Amendment Act of 2006 freed Bihar from obligation of having a tribal welfare minister. There are no The 94th Amendment Act of 2006 freed Bihar from obligation of having a tribal welfare minister, as there are no scheduled areas in Bihar now and the fraction of population of the scheduled tribes is very small. cabinet ministers, ministers, state minister, state and then deputy minister. The interim minister, the cabinet minister. The first there is cabinet minister, second is minister of state, and third is deputy minister. Take part in cabinet meeting, do not take part in cabinet meeting, and do not take part in cabinet meeting. Cabinet ministers, minister of state, and some of the deputy ministers. Cabinet ministers, minister of state, and deputy minister. Minister of state can be elected on an independent basis as well as can be attached to a ministry. Protection of life and personal liberty. Article 21 declares that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedures established by law. Article 21 declares that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedures established by law. This right is available to both citizens and non-citizens because only to non-citizens that is Article 15, 16, 19, 20 and 30. In the famous Gopalan case 1950, the Supreme Court has taken a narrow interpretation of Article 21. In the famous Gopalan case 1950, the Supreme Court has taken a narrow interpretation of the Article 21. It held that protection under Article 21 is available only as arbitrary executive action and not arbitrary legislative action. This means that the state can deprive the right to life and personal liberty of a person based on a law. This is based on the expression procedure established by law in Article 21. Process of law contained by the American Constitution. Due process of law. Hence, the validity of a law that is prescribed procedure cannot be questioned on the ground that the law is unreasonable, unfair, or unjust. Secondly, the Supreme Court held that the personal liberty means only liberty related to the person or body of the individual. But in Menka case 1978, the Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case by taking a wider interpretation of the Article 21. But in the Menka case 1978, the The Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case, but in Menaka case 1978, the Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case, but in Menaka case 1978, the Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case by taking a wide interpretation of Article 21. Therefore, it ruled that the right to life and personal liberty of a person can be deprived by a law provided the procedure prescribed by that law is reasonable, fair, and just. In other words, it has introduced American expression due process of law. In effect, the protection under Article 21 should be available not only against arbitrary executive action but also against arbitrary legislative action. So, procedure established by law, action provides protection against only the arbitrary executive action, but due process of law, it provides protection from arbitrary action, legislative as well as executive action. Life as embodied in Article 21 is not merely confined to animal existence or survival, but it includes within some the right to life with dignity and all this aspect of life which could make a man's life meaningful, complete, and worth living. It also ruled that expression personal liberty in Article 21 is of the widest amplitude, and it covers a variety of rights that want to constitute the personal liberties of a man. The Supreme Court has reaffirmed its judgment in the main case and the subsequent cases. It has declared the following right as part of Article 21. Right to live with human dignity, right to decent environment including pollution to water and air, and protection against hazardous industries, right to livelihood, right to privacy, right to shelter, right to health, right to free education up to 14 years of age, right to free legal aid, right against solitary confinement, right to speedy trial, right against handcuffing, right against inhuman treatment, right against delayed execution, right to travel abroad, right against bonded, right against custodial arrest, right to emergency medical aid, right to timely medical treatment, government hospital, right not to be trial, not to visit, right to fair trial, right of respect of necessities of life. Prisoner Safe Option of Prisoners Act 3. Right of women to be treated with decency and dignity, right against public hanging, right to road and areas, right to information, right to reputation, right of appeal of conviction, right to family pension, right to social and economic justice and empowerment, right against bar fetters, to appropriate life insurance policy, right to sleep, right to freedom from noise pollution, and right to sustainable development. And of course it is the right to opportunity, right to education. Article 21 declares that the state shall not provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years. Article 21 declares that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may determine. Article 21 declares that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may determine. Thus, this provision makes only elementary education a fundamental right and not higher or professional education. This provision was added by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002. This amendment is a major milestone in all the countries aim to achieve education for all. The government described this step as the dawn of the second evolution in the chapter of citizens' right. The government described this step as the dawn of the second evolution in the chapter of citizens' right. The government described this step as the dawn of the second evolution in the chapter of citizen right. Even before the amendment, the Constitution contained a provision for free and compulsory education, which is under Article 45 in Part 4 of the Constitution. However, being a DPSP, it was not impossible for the court. Now there is a scope for judicial intervention in this regard. This amendment changed the subject matter of Article 45 in the DPSP. It now reads the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years. It also added new fundamental duty under Article 51A that reads, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to provide opportunity for education to his child or ward between age of 6 and 14 years. In pursuance of the Article 21, the Parliament enacted the right of children to the Parliament enacted the right of children to free and compulsory education. RT Act 2009. This act seeks to provide that every child has the right to be provided full-time elementary education of satisfactory and equitable quality from normal school which satisfy certain essential norms and standards. The legislation is anchored in the belief that the values of equality, social justice, and democracy, and the creation of just and human society can be achieved only through provision of inclusive elementary education to all. In pursuance of Article 20, enacted the right of children to free and compulsory education. The right of children to free and compulsory education, that is RTE 2009. The right of children to free and compulsory education